What's up, Coach? Welcome to another edition of Build with the CEO. It is Tuesday at noon. I am your resident CEO, Trevor, and I'm excited to be with you here today. I'm solo, and today we are going to be talking about planning for 2026. Yes, it is November 4th when I'm recording this, but the beginning of November is the perfect time to start planning your business for 2026. And I've got a few reasons why. Number one is most people aren't doing it, right? They are waiting until the end of December or early January to start doing a bunch of their planning. And ultimately, they're behind. Okay. We want to be ready to go in January, and it takes some time to plan. Too many times we see coaches rushing, and then the promotion doesn't go well, the launch doesn't go well. And it's because we didn't give ourselves enough runway, right? So the beginning of November is great because let's be honest, nothing really happens midway through December till the new year, right? That is a lost time. And if you're starting in December, we've actually missed a really, really cool period. So I call this the Goldilocks period of planning, where you're far enough away from 2026 where there's plenty of time, right? But you're close enough where you can see it and you're ready to take action. So you're in this kind of perfect zone right now. And so you've got about 6 to 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. And that's an advantage over other coaches. All right. So what we're going to learn today, or what we're going to talk about today, is really the exact planning areas you need to nail down this month so you can hit January 1st running and not scrambling. So let's get into it. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is we need to do an audit of 2025. So you need to sit down with a piece of paper, go to a park, sit on a bench, find a place to clear your space, put your phone on silent, right? Airplane mode, no distractions, and let's audit 2025. Let's look at the financials. What programs and services were profitable and that were actually fulfilling? This is a big key too. We want sustainability in this business. So what of your offerings was profitable and actually fulfilling? I do a lot of calls with coaches. And when we do calls, coaches that have multiple offerings, I typically find that the vast majority of those offerings aren't really profitable. A coach decided to do them because of X, Y, and Z. Right. They decided to do a group program because they wanted something cheaper, but that group program is sucking all of their energy. And they tried to do a low cost offering because they wanted to appeal to a wider audience. And that low cost offering is sucking their energy. These are just examples, right? Really any model can work. But there are some things that I'm going to kind of recommend in the second piece that I think are working the best right now. But we need to figure out what programs are profitable and what we want to keep. We call that the keep method. So we got keep, kill, and create. Okay. So the kill one is what are the ones that are draining your energy? What particular programs, what promotions, looking at the previous year, just didn't hit? Okay. Let's kill those and let's not reuse them again. And then finally, what do we need to create? What are the gaps that exist right now for your perfect client? What are the things your perfect clients are asking for? What are the problems that your current clients are telling you they have? And what can we create around that? Is there a lead magnet that we can create? Is there a short-term challenge, 3, 5, 7-day challenge that we can kind of agitate that problem and solve a mini component of it? Right. So what do we need to create to really provide a better service for our clients? So real world example. I see coaches running kind of 4 or 5 different programs trying to kind of serve everyone. So if you've listened to any of these episodes, you've heard me talk about this idea of an ideal client or a perfect client. And if you are an online coach, right, you need to get dialed in on this, right? There are enough fish in the sea to be able to get really, really, really dialed in on your niche. Okay. Get really specific on who you serve, because once you get specific on who you serve, you can create the perfect program for that person because you understand them at like a microscopic level. And so find your ideal client, find out the problems that they have, and create the program to solve those problems. And ideally, one program, right? One core program, one core service that you can help people be successful with. Once you get some traction, maybe we introduce a second one, but you might be good with one core service, which kind of moves me into my next point is what is our service menu for 2025? Okay, what is our service menu? And some people will talk about we should have 3 for kind of an ascension model, a low, mid, and high ticket offer. In certain situations, I think that can work well. Potentially a gym situation. If you are a brick and mortar, I think a 3-tier service offering works really well. At the base tier being what you currently what's the word I'm looking for? What you currently service, like workouts. Workouts is the base tier. So what you're currently charging for workouts, that is your base tier. And then we create like a mid-ticket 6-week, 9-week challenge tier. And then we create a high-ticket concierge, high-touch type service. That is your high-ticket tier. Right now that gives us our service offering in the brick and mortar world. I don't necessarily think that's the best scenario for new coaches or coaches that are online. I think if we're in that online world, we should really pick one thing. And if you're a new coach, one-to-one coaching. One-to-one coaching, high service, high touch. You have time at this point, and so use that time to deeply figure out the person that you're serving. Okay, because then you can create a better program. If you want to move into a group program, great. Do it later or use it on the back end of your signature program. And what I think is working really, really well, or what I see working really, really well for a lot of coaches is some sort of higher ticket initial offering. Okay, call it 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 6 months. I think it needs to be a minimum of 12, right? But we can even go up to 6 months with this. What is your core program? And this is the one we really, really charge for, right? This is the one you charge $300, $400, $500, $600 a month for. Okay, it needs to be that good. So add stuff to it to make that good. Solve a problem where $500 a month seems like the person is getting a deal. Okay, do that for 3 to 6 months. Keep them in that. And then after that, we can move them into a continuity program, a retention program, give it a better name, a sexier name than that, but something where they're going to be lower touch, right? They don't need as much time. Maybe it's a monthly call, or maybe it's now they're working with an assistant coach or something like that. And maybe now it's $200 a month, right? And that builds some of your recurring. But I think this core program, 3 to 6 months, higher ticket, figure out how many people you can serve, and that is your offering, right? That's your signature program. It's how you solve the problem. So we want to map that out. What does that look like? What is that signature program? What am I charging for it, right? And who am I serving? If we don't have the who figured out, if we don't know who we're serving, that is always where we start. Once you define the who based upon the who's problems, kind of sound like it's a Christmas story. Once you figure out the who's problems, now we can build the program to solve those problems. Sometimes coaches do it backwards. We think we know what the problem is, and so we build the program. We build the program we think we want, or the program we like, and then we try to fit the person into that program. Understand the who. Once you understand the who, then build the program to solve the problems of the who. And the best way to do this is one-to-one coaching, right? Helping someone move through their journey, helping them be successful, really mapping out that process, documenting that process, and then starting to build a system around it. Okay, if you missed last week's episode with Nate Palmer, he's doing it in the kind of entrepreneur space where he's helping entrepreneurs, specifically men. And he's been doing it for the better part of a decade. And he has created the system around it. So if you haven't listened to that episode last week, go find that. It's a good one to model, right? It's a lot easier to just model people that are successful, right? And then find your people, because you don't need a lot. 30 clients at $300 a month is $9,000 a month. That's a pretty nice business that can be run solo on part-time hours. So design your 2026 service menu. Less is more. Less is more. All right. Now, the third piece of this is we need to start locking in our systems to deliver this service, right? If we know the service, then what are the systems that we need to deliver the service? Now, when we think about a coaching business, there's 2 different parts to our coaching business. There's a front end and a back end. You kind of think of like a restaurant, right? We have a front of the house and a back of the house. Your coaching business works in a very similar way. And if you are online only, if you're brick and mortar, you might need another one. But if you're online only, you probably need 2 platforms to run your business. You can do everything in 2 platforms. If you're offline, brick and mortar, you probably need a third. Okay, you probably need a third. But if you're an online coach, 2 platforms. We need one platform that runs the front of the house, and we need one platform that runs the back of the house. And I'm going to go deeper into this next week on Wednesday. But for this, just think about it as 2 parts. So we have the front end of the house, and at Coach Catalyst, we have a platform called Supercoach CRM. It's what I use at my facilities. It's what hundreds of coaches are using for the front end of their business. Think about text message marketing, email marketing, forms, funnels, lead magnets, all of that stuff that we use to build awareness around what we're doing. That once we've built awareness and we get someone in our world, we move them through the buyer's process, right? So we move them from being a prospect to being a buyer or a client. And then once they become a client, we move them into our service platform, which is Coach Catalyst, right? That's the VIP, the velvet rope for the people that we're serving. And only the people that we're serving get this type of access to us. Maybe we have a branded app, so it's a little bit... so we increase the perceived value of it, right? But they have their place to be able to communicate, right? So we need these 2 places, and they should be separate because we want a mental shift between the 2. When I'm in my marketing and sales platform, I shouldn't be thinking about servicing my clients. So I shouldn't have the communication with my clients in that platform because I'm also communicating with prospects, communicating with leads. I'm moving people through, I'm scheduling, all that kind of stuff. And we don't want to get any client communication lost. And if it's in that platform, it's going to get lost. So we want that in that separate servicing component of your business. So we need to lock in our systems, and we really need to. If you're dealing with a bunch of systems, if you have 4 or 5 different subscriptions to softwares to try and make all of this work, there is a better way, because there is a cost to having a lot of systems. The logging in, the logging out, the task switching, the spreadsheets, all of that kind of stuff. There is a cost to these kind of things. And so if we're thinking about building a real business, we need to make sure we have the right systems to service our business effectively. And just as a little tease, next week, we're going to be dropping a Black Friday type of deal. So you're going to want to pay attention to that because it's going to be pretty sweet. And we're only going to keep it open for a little bit of time. But right now, the actionable takeaway from this is look at the systems that you're currently using, really do an audit. What subscriptions do you have right now to platforms? And make sure that those platforms are serving you, right? Are there any manual tasks that you're doing right now that could be automated, right? What does the follow-up process look like? Are you trying to do all of that manually? Right? We can create automations and systems around a lot of these processes as long as we have the right system. And we're going to talk all about this next week. So if this is interesting at all, definitely jump on next week, Wednesday. You'll see it in the emails. I believe it's 9:30 Central when we're going to be doing a talk that goes deeper into these 2 systems and some of the assets that you're going to have at your disposal. Okay. So get all that figured out. What does your client management look like? Your communication, your payment and billing, your content delivery, your scheduling, right? We want all of that figured out. All right. Next one is setting goals, right? For 2026. So you have 10 months worth of data, right? From this year. And so you can see what happened this year and what's realistic for next year, right? What are some realistic revenue goals? So the cool thing about this is you can start to break things down, right? Let's say that you wanted to make $120,000 in 2026. This is for really easy math, okay? So that means you need to make $10,000 per month inside of your business, okay? So based upon what you charge, right? Basically what you charge per month, how many clients would you need in order to hit that, right? If you were charging, let's say, what's going to be some easy math? So $10,000 a month. Let's say you're charging $500 per client per month. Okay. How many clients do you need? 20, right? We need 20 clients at $500 per month in order to hit our goal of 10K. And then we start to backtrack a little bit more. Okay, to get a client, how many conversations do I need to have with someone? Like, let's say sales conversations do you need to have in order to get one client? Maybe you have a really good close percentage, and let's say it's 50%, which is actually good. Right? If you're closing 90%, we're not charging enough. Charge more. Let's say we're doing 50% closing, which is solid, right? So to get a new client, I need to have 2 conversations. Okay. To get, let's say maybe I'm at 10 clients, I need to get to 20 clients. All right. To get 10 more clients, I need to have 20 conversations. Cool. And so then you can backtrack even more. Like, how many leads do I need to get in order to get a conversation? Right. So you can start looking at how many opt-ins, how many leads, those kind of things. And maybe you need to get 10 people to have one conversation, right? To then get one client to buy, that means we need 20 people to opt in, or we need 20 people to do a challenge or something like that, right? They need to kind of come into our world. And so you can start to backtrack some of that math to figure out, hey, what do I need to do in order to get here? And then you can start to focus on the problem areas. Hey, I'm doing really good at closing, getting people onto sales calls. I'm getting really good at getting people into challenges, but I have a really hard time moving people into my core program. Cool. We need to work on how you're communicating your core program during those challenges, right? And so you can look at all of these different stages of the customer journey, right? And we can figure out which stage is the bottleneck. Because in every business, there is going to be a stage that is a bottleneck. And that's going to change, right? It's never going to be just perfect and smooth sailing. Those stages change. And so we're constantly auditing to see which area are we struggling in, or where is the block? Because if we can release that block, everything is going to flow. So look at this year. What did we do in the 10 months of this year? And let's start to set a realistic 2026 revenue goal. And then we break that down monthly. And then we break that into how many clients do we need. And you keep working backwards to your lead generation needs. And then it gives you at least some targets to shoot at, right? To see, okay, to get here, here's what I need to do. So let's figure out how to get 100 leads per month, or whatever that may be, right? So that's what I want you to start thinking about for 2026. So first thing we need to do is audit 2025, right? To keep, kill, create. What do I need to keep? Right? What offerings are working great right now, and where should I go all in? What offerings maybe aren't fulfilling, right? They're not getting great results, or they're not getting much traction, but I've just kind of hung on to them because, I have a couple people in them and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, right? This is a good time to rip that Band-Aid off. And then where do you need to create? Maybe you're a brand new coach and we need to create everything, which is cool, right? Create that signature offer. Right? Where is the gap that you need to create? And so that's what we're going to think with the audit of 2025. Keep, kill, create. Then we design your 2026, right? Think, what is my signature program? What problem do I solve? And who am I solving that for? If we don't know yet, decide on the who, have lots of conversations with the who, and then from there, you'll identify the problems and then create the program that solves the problem for the who. Right? When we are in an online world, we can get really, really narrow with who we serve. And we should get really, really narrow because the pond is extremely big. If you're offline, if you're in the brick and mortar world, your client base essentially lives within a 5-mile radius around where you work, right? Because they operate differently, right? Brick and mortar versus online. And so your target market, it gets defined by geography. Rather than there is a niche component to it, definitely, but it doesn't have to be as narrow because geography is a limiter. But in the online world, we don't have geography, so you have to get really, 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 really narrow and specific, which is awesome because that makes content creation easier, right? It means going to where your potential clients are easier, right? Because we know exactly who we're talking to. And then the third one, we want to lock in those systems. Okay, what are your tools that you're going to be using in 2026? Audit your tools. Which tools aren't pulling their weight anymore? Which tools can you consolidate? For most online coaches, we can run a great business with 2 tools: a front of the house and a back of the house. A front end for sales, marketing, scheduling, everything before the sale, and then the back of the house, which is our servicing, right? That's how we provide an incredible experience for our clients. We communicate with them, we deliver our program, right? We store data, we hold people accountable, right? We have 2 systems for that. And then finally, I think it's good to set some targets for the following year based upon current. We have 10 months of data in 2025. Let's look into 2026 and start setting some targets, setting some goals, right? Create a couple tiers of goals if you want to, right? Have that stretch goal, right? If everything goes right, what can we do? Have your goal that you think is reasonable, right? And then here's the goal we have to hit. And then you can start working everything backwards. How many clients do we need to hit this? How many leads do we need to get that many clients? Okay. And now that gives you a little bit of a framework to start working towards. And then as you're doing that, you might figure out there is a block in your current system. And if you unblock that portion, everything else becomes a whole lot easier, right? So this isn't like a sit down for 5 minutes and attack this thing. It is probably a 2 to 3 hour sit down. Kane and I in December are going to be doing something really awesome. We're going to be taking people through the best year ever workshop. So definitely look for that if you need some help with this. But I think you can do a lot of work right now because now is a great time, right? From now until the end of the year, we should be building leads. Building leads. English is my first language, right? We should be finding leads. We should be putting things out into the market. We should be running these kind of like free challenges. We should be engaging with our list. We should be emailing regularly because our next big launch is going to be in January. Okay, that is our next big launch. And so we should be using this time of year to get things out there. And this was actually a point that I skipped over that I forgot about that I want to hit before I let you guys go for the day. And so from November and December, this should be like your lead gen time. Can you get something out there that resonates with your market? Maybe it's a recipe guide of festive recipes. And then maybe you're going to do something like a Christmas countdown or a way to engage with people in early December, right? We want engagement now so that in the new year, when we open, people want to sign up and we're not opening to crickets, right? So the work that you do in November and December is going to determine how well your January launch goes. So we need to be getting things into the marketplace. Like realistically, right, in the next 1 to 2 weeks, you can have a couple lead magnets out, right? Yeah, realistically, you could have one out in a week, getting a lead magnet out there. And then can we have a short challenge in December, right? In Coach Catalyst, we have the Christmas countdown. I think we have another one, 12 days to Fitness, I believe, is another one that we have inside of Coach Catalyst that you can use. Just really simple stuff to help people be successful. If you have current clients, like maybe a no holiday weight gain or something like that, but we just want to engage with people during this time. This isn't really a big buying time for coaching. So this needs to be a growing time for you as far as growing your audience, growing your list, communicating with them regularly. And so I think if you're doing that stuff in November and December, you're going to have an incredible launch in January. So that's my last piece for the day. Next week, we're going to be at a different time. We're going to be on Wednesday. Next week, we got a little Black Friday launch that's going on. And on Wednesday, we're going to talk about this concept of front of the house, back of the house. And maybe there's going to be a deal to be had if you need something for the front of the house. So if you do have any questions, definitely tag me in the comments. I'm more than happy to help. I'm here every Tuesday, except next Tuesday, because we're going to be on Wednesday, helping you build a better business and a better coaching program. So I hope you have a great Tuesday. My name is Trevor. We'll see you later.